Okay, you're good to call the special to order.
Okay, so I will call this meeting to order at 11:04. Does anybody want to read the land acknowledgement? Any volunteers?
No.
Okay, then I will read it again. Let me just find it.
I have one here.
If you want to read it, Linda, go
Well,
ahead.
it's a little different because it explains the dish with one spoon wampum agreement.
I'm not sure whether we read the Thorold, Sydney.
Through you, Madam Chair, I can also screen share it if someone wants to read it off the screen.
Okay, well, yeah, I have a little different one, but anyway, that's okay.
Okay. Anybody want to read it off the screen? Okay, then I read it again.
Yes, please.
All right. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattiwandurrung, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any declarations of interest?
No.
No? Okay, then can I have a mover and a seconder on the adoption of the agenda? Joe and Tim to second, all in favor? Yes, so that is carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder on the adoption of the minutes of February 28th? Joe and Councillor, all in favor to adopt the minutes? Yes, that is carried. Correspondence. There's a couple of items. First of all, Sydney sent me an email about the designation of the Lot 25 in Beaver Dams Park being approved by council and Sarah being retained to do the historic report on it. So that's wonderful news, in case any of you weren't aware of that yet. Secondly, this is a item that has only come to my attention after I sent in the agenda last week. It was an email from Ashley D'Amico about an archaeology assessment on at 2 South Main Street in Port Robinson. It's a property that is open for development. There's a single family home on it right now in the garage, and it's going to be developed with, I think, 3 sets of semi-detached houses. The house on the property is not listed, either designated or potential, but because of the proximity to treaty history and proximity to historic waterways and roadways, an archaeology assessment was done by a company called Urban Heritage, Inc. I've read the report, it seems in order. It also stipulates that when excavation begins for this new build, if any archaeological resources are found, work will be stopped immediately and further assessments done. Joe, I forwarded the report to you. Did you read it, and what was your?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I did read it. Actually went down and had a look at the property.
Yes.
There has been a fair bit of development on the south side of the perpendicular street. I suspect that the disapproval to the project is coming from some of the neighbors across the street. They've got beautiful homes built down there. My question is was there any intent to demolish the house that's on the said property, or are they going to build around it?
as far as I know, Councillor.
Yeah, through you,
So
Madam
through-
Chair. Yeah, Joe, the existing house will be remaining and they'll be adding 2 more buildings onto the property, one on each of the streets that the property faces onto. So the original will be, I think, might be converted into a 2-apartment unit, but it's basically the structure will stay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so basically, the city asks us to comment. So at this point, there are no archaeological resources found. So do we basically agree that our comment is that we don't have comments at this time, but if that if anything is found once they start building, then obviously that will change. Yeah, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would suggest that we just receive the information, and if it needs to be addressed at a later date, I'm sure the city is going to keep us informed as to the project development for any input from our committee.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Okay, then we move on to financial. First of all, the budget. We need to determine our budget requests for the remainder of the year. And so are there any, we basically know what we've been allowed, the amount of money that we've been allowed for the year. We also know what we can afford to do with that amount, and which generally we look at 2 designations a year. We also have to pay for our website, which hasn't been paid off yet. And then whatever is remaining for stands and plaques that are still missing on quite a number of our designated properties. Are there any other comments? Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I did submit to Councillor O'Hare the projected cost for the Lock 25 designation. I think we may be able to save a bit of money in the sense that we do have a couple of the stainless stands in our inventory right now, so we don't actually have to order one right now. We can use that for the designation ceremony in Beaver Dams Park. So that does, it allows us to shift a bit of money because the stands are, just about everything has doubled in price. We will be able to get, we're looking at probably $4,000 per designation now, going forward. McGee did not confirm the price of the history plaque price or the stand yet, but he assumed that they were going to be doubled in price. So if we're looking at the 2 designations, I think a stainless history plaque and a stand is probably going to run us now about $1,000. And then there would be the installation that the city started charging us in the last couple of years. I think it was about $150 per stand. So this year we'll probably be able to do a couple of stands. Next year's request, we may have to redevelop a whole new budget if we're going to plan on doing 2 designations. And if we've been doing 4 history plaques and stands in the past, we're going to be looking at about $4,000 just to do that. Now, I hope I'm not wandering too much on this, but I did go over our list of designated properties to see what remaining properties are that have not had history plaques installed on them yet. We're looking at about 25 still to go. So I would say that's at least a 5 or 6 year project down the road that we're looking at for that. Although the designations going forward may taper off a bit, so we may be able to bump up those numbers as we go and take it on a year by year basis.
Okay. Megan?
Stephanie Jarvis shared with me this email. She, can you see this email with the chart with events, cost, and in kind? Can you guys
Yes.
see? Yeah. So she's asking for a breakdown of the fees by the end of this week. So when you guys are doing the budget, they just need a line by line breakdown. So I can send that in an email afterwards. But that's what she's requested from the Heritage Committee for the
Okay.
budget.
So she wants to know how much the plaques are, how much the stands are, how much the installation is.
Yeah, so for your budget, what you're wanting to use the budget for, she wants a breakdown of every item.
Okay,
And any in-kind services that would be required for each of those items.
Okay, Joe?
okay, I think I did provide Councilor O'Hare, I think I gave him a list that when he went to the council meeting. So it is somewhat broken down. You know, the cost of the bronze plaque is now about $1,300. We're looking at setting a line item cost for Sarah's research at $1,500 to give us some kind of a buffer. Sometimes she may come in with a report that may not top out at that. That's entirely up to her, depending on what she wants to, the scope of the investigation that she wants to perform. Like I said, the only two items we're still waiting for is a confirmed price on the stand and the plaque, but McGee did indicate he thought that the plaque was going to, like a stainless plaque was going to be $400 and the stainless stand was going to be $600. So we do have it kind of broken down. The installation cost, I'm not too sure what other than the, I think that pretty well covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we can double that up and then we'll break down some other areas when we figure out what else we're going to ask for to be included in our budget that we're going to present for the balance of this year.
Okay, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out, or at least I haven't seen any line amount for an office expense type of expense. So for example, Joe and I yesterday met downtown at the Stone store, and it would be very handy and also professional if both yourself and Joe had business cards clearly stating chair and vice chair, because the information is going to be exchanged all the time. And this is something that I think should be included in the budget, some portion for, I guess that would fall under office expenses.
Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, in the past, we used to have a line item. It was office supplies, because Pam used to go over to, I think it was Print 3 and get letterhead if she was forwarding letters to the city, you know, if we were some kind of a special request for information or an impact statement that we were filing. So yeah, we were trying to keep it on a professional level. I know with Pam having been the recording secretary in the past, I think she was submitting an invoice for like a printer cartridge because she was doing a lot of copy work for the committee at the time. So, you know, it was just a small line item that covered off some office supplies.
Okay. So we'll try and fit it in. I mean, if there's any money left over after our hopefully 2 designations and the website, then we'll figure in, you know, sort of cash expenses for small things like office expenses as we'll set aside an amount for that. Does that sound all right to you, Megan?
Yes, it does. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was on mute there. That sounds great. And then I'm just sending you and Joe the email. I'm just forwarding it to you both now. And then if you guys can work to try and have that done by Friday, just a breakdown of that, then I will be able to give that to Stephanie.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Then can we, so do we have to move on the yearly budget being two designations, and this year, obviously, the website and whatever money is left over for office expenses, and if there's an additional stand that still can be purchased, that's what will be purchased at the end of the year. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Can I have somebody to move on that then? Okay, Joe, Linda, are you seconding? Great, everybody in favor? All right. Okay, that is carried then, and we'll get that budget over to you ASAP, Megan.
Thank you.
Or do we send the budget to you, Megan, or to you, Sydney?
You can include both of us on that email.
Okay, all right, will do. Okay, any invoices for payment? Not that I know of. Anybody else? Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, we did have one from Mark Collaby, the Web for Business, the annual hosting invoice that he submitted.
Okay, I think that was already mentioned in the last session and paid, wasn't it?
Has it been paid?
I think it was submitted for payment, as far as I know. But unless there was another one, but
No.
as far as I remember, it was already
It was submitted.
Yeah.
I was just-
What we did submit last time was an old invoice from Sarah for research done on the Summit House, and that hasn't been paid yet. Do you have any news about that, Megan?
So that's, I had asked you for clarification, and you gave me some clarification regarding the different dates on the invoice. I provided your clarification to the finance department, and I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
One other question through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor O'Hare. You had been in conversation with the finance director over us possibly tapping into last year's budget to pay off the balance of the web design that Mark was doing for us that we weren't able to complete because our term was cut substantially short. Did you get an answer from finance yet on that?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, not yet, but I'm still pursuing, and hopefully that'll have a good ending.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have any sales on the Beaver Dams books?
Through you, Madam Chair, not currently at the time, and I know I did discuss at the last meeting about finding another place to store the books. I mean, I've got them at home, but I thought, maybe they could be stored at the Lock 7 Tourist Center, but I'm going to hold off on that, and I'm going to raise something later on in the meeting that might be dealing with the books as well.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. All right, moving on then. We have a very full program. I will skip over some things that aren't necessary to discuss today. So I'm just gonna address the things that we really have to discuss today. First of all, properties, Beaver Dams Church. I assume not much is to report yet, but Linda, I was gonna ask you whether you would maybe take on reports on the progress on Beaver Dams Church in our meetings. Would that be all right?
I can do that. Yeah.
Great, awesome. Anybody know anything about any progress yet? I assume it's not late enough in the year yet for any work to have been done.
There's a meeting on Wednesday evening
Okay.
of this week. And they're they're talking about the interior painting
Mhm.
of it. And also I think we talked about it last time that there has been a washroom purchased for outside of the building. But other than that, they had some difficulty connecting some of us at the last meeting. So hopefully tomorrow's connection will work.
Okay, good. Installation of history plaques, that's also still deferred to better weather. I assume these plaques do exist. They are for the Dobie House and the Stone Store. With regards of the Stone Store, we should probably wait until after their restoration of the facade is done. It doesn't make any sense to install that plaque right now. Last year we had basically deferred both those installations until warmer weather this spring anyways. So with regards to the Stone Store, we'll wait until they're done with the work they're doing in the front and then install it. Doesn't make sense to install it right now, take it off again and put it back. That just doesn't make sense. Outstanding planning items, the Monroe House, we'll not talk about that this week. The website, any news on the website, on the completion of the new website. Ray isn't here. Does anybody else have any news to report?
No.
No. Okay. Heritage permit status update. Anything from planning about this, Megan?
Through the chair, what's the question?
It's the heritage permit for designated buildings. We've tried for the city to implement something like this for years, and it would just help substantially when somebody purchases a designated property and wants to do work on it. If there were a heritage permit, then it would make it very clear to the owner what is allowed and what isn't. This way, we always kind of float with owners who don't know what their obligations are and what the possibilities are, what they can do with a designated property. And sometimes in the past, there have been, resentments from new owners who had no idea what they were purchasing. And then they wanted to do things that you just cannot do to a designated building. And very often they were just aesthetic things. But if there were such a thing as a heritage permit, it would just make things a lot easier.
We have a student starting in a few months, so that could be something that they can look into researching about.
Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to Megan. Yeah, a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, Denise Landry was our staff rep, and she did have a student in that was working on a heritage permit. It didn't reach a point where we got anything completed from her. If there's anything that still exists in the files in the planning department that could be picked up upon and maybe just complete it or verify that what was established by this co-op student at the time is something that we can move forward with. And if it's half done, there's only half the work left to do and it'll be done quicker.
Yeah, so through the chair, there's nothing I found related to heritage permits, and our filing system, the filing system is kind of a little chaotic here, and there's nothing that's been found, but it can be definitely something that our co-op student can look into.
Okay, thank you.
Make sure any information that is more up to date, because if it was done a few years ago, it might be out of date.
Sure.
Okay, good. So if we could, so we'll remind you of that in every meeting so that once your co-op student starts, it doesn't get forgotten. It's a thing that is very close to our hearts. Now the downtown facade program. For the last few years, we never had any applicants. Well, now we do. The Stone Store was sold recently, and the owners have applied for the downtown facade program to restore the building, which is designated. And I guess we will be, we can either talk about the Stone Store right now or do it later. Joe and Tim, you already talked to the owner, I think, yesterday or the day before.
Yes.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it was quite successful.
Yeah,
Yep, Joe.
through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we met with John and Leslie. They're the owners of the building. They've got some plans. Nothing's really concrete right now. They do have to do, I guess, structural assessment on the building. There is some roof issues. There's some water leaks in the upper level. So I've suggested that I'll give them the contact for Mark Schultz to come in and have a look at the building. They've got some plans for the facade. I'm going to give them contacts to Colin Sash, who did the front facade for the old Quebec Bank. They were pretty wowed at the look of that. The sketch that they've provided is a little bit modern looking, but at least gives them something to look at, because they do want to maintain the small town feel. They're pretty excited about being down in the area. And as you spoke earlier about the history plaque, we did talk about that we would wait to install that after their facade was done. But no, it was I think it was a fruitful discussion that we had with them.
Yeah, it might also look a little bit modern because it's some AutoCAD drawing that doesn't really get the proportions of the building right. The windows are way too small and it's too wide, not high enough. So, you know, if it were actually to scale, it would probably also look right. I would imagine from what all the details I can see on it, it doesn't really change anything, which is what we want.
If I could just add one more little comment here. This is the first time I've ever seen the application form for the downtown facade improvement program, because that was usually Craig that was involved with that. But I think maybe we need to update the address on the form, because it is 8 Carlton Street South. And I don't think City Hall's been in Carlton Street South for 15 years.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add, it was a very pleasant meeting with the new owners of the Stone Store. And though it looks like it's a modern revision of the Gypsy Alley store, it really isn't anything of a change. Everything above ground floor will be retained, of course, the stonework, the windows, the detail in the roof, parapet walls, all that will be retained. All they're going to do generally is repair work if there's any parging or anything structurally that needs fixing, and then they're going to replace the glass using the current existing framework that's there, and above the window they'll just be painting a new sign. So it's just a refreshing of that storefront, so without touching any heritage aspects of it.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay, good. All right, then we'll move on to new business. Beaver Dams Park lot designation. What are the next steps? Joe?
I guess through you, Madam Chair, I guess we're just waiting for Sarah to submit the report so we can do a heritage evaluation on that. I think we're probably in pretty good shape right now, hopefully. Like I said, when we do the actual designation, the only thing we're not going to have is the bronze plaque. There is a 24-week lead time on that, but we will have the history plaque and the stainless stand that could be installed for the unveiling.
Yeah, and then we'll install the bronze plaque when it comes in at a later date. Okay, good news. Any other comments about that item? No? Okay. Heritage inventory list. We just heard a lot about that from Andrew and Chris. We should form a subcommittee to deal with streamlining this list. I have talked to Eva in the past. She has expressed immense interest in working on that. She's not here today, but she has asked that expressly that she would like to work on that. I suggest Eva as the chair of this subcommittee. Comments from you, from others of you. Would you support that? Joe?
For you, Madam Chair, absolutely. Ava's got really good work skills.
Yeah, amazing background, and
we can count on her to have at least a very good progress report for the next meeting, I'm sure, moving forward. Okay, so can we move and second to have Eva chair this subcommittee to work on the overhaul of our heritage inventory list of undesignated buildings? Yes.
So moved. So moved.
So moved. So seconded with Joe. All in favor? Yes. Okay. Now we need somebody to help Eva. She can't run a subcommittee all by herself.
It all depends on when she calls a meeting. I wouldn't mind being involved in something like that. It'd be interesting to, we actually should go and take pictures of a lot of those designated or non-designated properties. I think we need a,
through you, Madam Chair, to Linda, this really isn't about like updating the list. This is about taking this list because we are restricted with time. We're looking at doing some, I guess, minor research into these properties to try to separate the truly potentially designatable properties versus the ones that can be set aside. So this is something that we need to have it completed probably the following meeting after the next meeting. So this requires a dedication to get this done, because this will form the basis for our future designations. Maybe it'll go into the balance of the year and what we can plan for next year when we know we've got some concrete candidates out of this list.
Just a second, Sarah. Wynn had her hand up just before.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'd be happy to work with Eva on this project and, prioritize the designated list.
Yeah, I mean, you had asked me actually once before, what do you want me to do? And I had actually already had you in my mind, but that would be great. And Sarah?
Yeah, I was going to say, I know I'm not formally part of the committee because I work for it, but I'm prepared to act as a pro bono consultant, and
that would be wonderful.
Sort of offer, because I do have a lot of resources, so I can certainly. And Eva, of course, knows.
Well, especially when it comes to historic background of these properties,
and
I
also
think that any of us would have the same knowledge as you. So,
but also Tom and Pam Minns worked together very closely back in the 80s. So I mean, so I mean, I'm happy to offer my services in that regard. Okay.
All right. Okay. Great. So, Joe, do you want to do we move on a committee? Oh, Sydney?
Through you, Madam Chair, if we can just have a motion to create the subcommittee, say what the subcommittee is for and the time frame the subcommittee is going to be active, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, we already, I thought when we named Eva chair of the subcommittee, it was, or wasn't it already created then? Or,
Yeah, if we could just officially make it with the time frame and everything.
okay,
Go
okay,
back for-
time frame. What should the time frame be? Obviously, by the summer, we need to have this list public by July, right? So, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm going to direct this question to Sarah. You know, the extent of our list, realistically, could we have that done in a couple of months? Or, by skimming through it, do you think you could find some real serious candidates and then we can take our time with the rest?
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I could certainly go through the list and see a lot. It's not up to date, so that's one thing, because there are some buildings that are no longer there anymore. But yeah, no, certainly I could skim through quickly. I would like to do it with someone like Eva as well, who could bring that expertise as well. But maybe a quick drive around, and then we could make a decision based on that, and then she could present it to the committee after that. But then yes, yeah, whittling it down and then working on a more thorough evaluation of what's worthy and what's not.
So, Joe, okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, again to Sarah. I think Eva has already, she's done a map. I guess it's a GIS map. And with the help of her husband, they've pinpointed all the potential houses on this map. It's pretty, I think you've seen it, haven't you, Wen?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Joe. Yep, I've seen it, and it's basically just taking the inventory, the index list from 2016 and just plotting it on a map. But as Sarah's saying, if that list is outdated, we'll need to kind of scrub that a bit and update it as needed, and then yeah, go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've looked at all those properties on Google Maps, and there are definitely some that aren't there anymore. And so it's the map is obviously of great help, because then you see where these properties are located. So in order to properly form this subcommittee, can we then move on Eva chairing it? And if you already have knowledge of this win, then it would definitely be great if you would join Eva with this. And so can we move, Sarah, I probably don't include you in this if you do this on sort of a more, do we include Sarah in this too? Because she's not a member of the Heritage Committee. She just offered her services to us.
But I could offer my service. Sorry, I'm not sure exactly the protocol here, but Madam Chair. But yeah, I think probably as a consultant, but with my CAP, designation. I mean, I think that certainly would be.
Yeah, and I don't mean to for you to spend
no, but I
on this. Only if you have advice to give to Eva and Win, that would be amazing. If you have insight into some areas that they might not see right away because it's just not visible.
Great. Okay. Certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Sydney?
Through Madam Chair, I was just going to say that people who aren't on the committee are more than welcome to join the subcommittees. However, there doesn't need to be a formal motion to appoint them to the subcommittee.
All right. Then let's move on the subcommittee chaired by Eva and joined by Win for until July to get this research done about the non-designated potential heritage inventory list. Yeah, can I have somebody to move on it? Joe, can I have somebody to second it? Tim, Councillor, all right, all in favor? Okay, anybody, okay, great, then that's carried, awesome. Okay, then let's move on to the next issue, Heritage Impact Statement update. Do we have any updates? I have to admit that I haven't worked on it. I have some family obligations right now. I haven't really looked at the Heritage Impact Statement. Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think what the draft that we have, perhaps it should be shared with the balance of the committee for feedback.
Mm-hmm.
This has to do with the McDonald's proposal at the corner of Sullivan and Pine.
Yeah.
I think we've, with the chair and Wynn, we sat down and did a rough draft and bounced some ideas around. And I think, we did find out a lot of concerns that we had with the location. Some of them aren't directly related to the Heritage Committee when you're dealing with traffic, etc. But in the Parks Recreation Trails Master Plan that the city put out in 2021, I believe, there is a streetscaping.
Yeah, and here's the section.
A section that specifically speaks to a corridor that goes from the hydro facility on the other side, the west side of Albert Street, cuts through along towpath until it comes out to Sullivan, which would have a potential for being a heritage corridor district, as it's the buried. Lock 24 is definitely buried under there. I think the location of it is probably around where the new parking lot is that they put next to the fire hall front entrance. So this is what we're going to be focusing on. It's such a conflict between golden arches and buried locks from the early 1800s that we have to make sure that the public is aware of what's down there. The city approved this plan. It's all recommendations, but I think that's an opportunity for us to put in our strategic plan that we get some more research on that area, the buried buildings that are down there, and maybe we can move forward with the idea of an interpretive park down there where there's a lot of signage, a lot of history is talked about. So this is all part of what we're talking about in our heritage impact statement that we're going to submit to the city. So if the committee gets a look at this and they can add any comments or expand on it, would be greatly appreciated.
Yep. Sarah?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to speak to this at all. Am I? Okay, I guess a guest or whatever.
Historian.
I would say that lot 24 is definitely right underneath the old Welland Canal. Second Welland Canal. Lot 24 is directly underneath the fire hall, and I sent some of you that link to the GIS thing that was produced at Brock University, which is actually extremely helpful. But yeah, I mean, I can just send you a screenshot right now of Heritage Street. Are you interested in that right this moment, or is that of any use?
I would be interested. I'm not sure whether I can access it because I might crash my computer here. But,
I'll just take a quick screenshot here, just so because Mill Street is what is Sullivan right now, and but I'll just put that in the chat right now. Just so yeah, there's a fair bit there. I mean, of course, and there's the later history. Sorry, I'm trying to think because it's not wanting to. It's taking a second to load here. So I mean that's just my 2 cents worth, but
now that's awesome. That we also are planning, we're hoping that a museum will materialize in that area, which of course would strengthen that aspect of a heritage area. I mean, it just seems logical conclusion to keep this area, you know, looking in a way that fits into, you know, a historic town and the heritage area, even if it's not a designated district yet. Win, you had your hand up.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering, should we, do we have any timelines in mind for committee review of and providing feedback on the currently drafted impact statement and when we hope to have this official and out the door?
Not to my knowledge. Joe, do we? Not
Well,
at the
through you, Madam Chair, if the members can get a look at the draft impact statement that we've done and submit comments at our next meeting, perhaps at that stage we can have a finalized version to submit to city. I think we're well ahead of the curve right now because this is such an early stage of the proposal. But it's imperative that we get this in quickly so it becomes part of the next package that council is going to look at when it does hit their agenda again.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll forward all these points to all the committee members and they can comment. And then we'll discuss them at the next meeting and finalize it and then submit it to council. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving on. Appointment of a heritage representative to the Tourism Advisory Committee. I had actually been asked by the Tourism Advisory Committee whether I would be that person, and I'd already almost thought I'd put myself forward, but Eva actually sent me an email the other day that she would be interested in being that representative. I would be in favor of that. I would gladly leave it to Eva if she feels she would like to do that. But I put it to you. What are your thoughts? Any, Tim, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's a great idea. I think she'd be a wonderful asset.
Well, Eva is certainly somebody who can make a point and, you know, be convincing. Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, if I could just make a comment. The Tourism Committee, I think they're going to find themselves with some real challenges this year with not having a true tourism director, and no disrespect to Ken Schultens, who's the economic development officer, but I think he's got his plate really full filling that responsibility and being asked to be a tourism director too. This committee is all new members, and I think we need, from Heritage Thorold's perspective, we need somebody who is going to attend the meeting that can be somewhat outspoken and a little forward and very creative in presenting ideas purely for the purpose of representing Heritage Thorold. I did point out at the very first meeting that I attended that it's important that this committee, the Tourism Committee, understands the three pillars of their existence, and that's the canal, heritage, and the cycling trail. And I wouldn't want to see us get lost in the mix of this committee trying to find their footing and what they want to move forward with first.
Yeah.
You know, so I would suggest that Ava would be a good fit on this committee. A second question I have through you, Madam Chair, to Sydney is: would this have to be a motion to appoint her, or can we just? There is a spot that's been created in the terms of reference that I didn't think was necessary because Heritage Thorold was already mentioned in, not specifically Heritage Thorold. So can we just appoint her at this meeting, or does this have to be, go to council for council to approve the appointment?
Through you, Madam Chair, council wouldn't need to approve this, just the committee would be able to decide this.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. And Linda, you have your hand up?
Yes, and then I was just going to say that I support the appointment of Ava to this, to be our representative on tourism. It'd be good.
Okay, then can I have somebody to move on appointing Eva to be, okay, councillor, and Linda, that's seconded, and all in favor? All right, then that's carried. So Ava will be our rep at the Tourism Advisory Committee. Okay. Now, we've already, the next item on my list of new business is the Stone Store, but we basically have already talked about it. Are there any other comments you want to make about that, Joe or Councillor O'Hare? No, not at this point. I think we've basically covered the sort of up, and now it's basically up to them bringing us their more precise plans. Megan?
So if you're not making a motion to accept the facade or recommend it being approved today, you're wanting more detailed plans, is that?
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
yes, I think so, because the drawing that we have is not very precise. Tim and Joe have talked to the owners and they feel they understand each other, that what they do is exactly what we would find appropriate. Maybe we would want a more formal description of what they're going to do to the facade, so that we know that there are no significant changes going to be done to this designated building. Joe?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, to Megan. Yeah, with the discussion that we had, I think they were still open to what was going to, what the windows and the door were really going to look like. It wasn't 100% firm. They did look around a bit of the downtown. They saw some features that they liked. I think they're going to go back into Henderson's Pharmacy to have a look at a lot of the photographs that surround the walls up there. So they're really open to changes to what they thought they might want to do. I think they recognize their priority right now is a structural issue with the roof before they get down to the finer points of how the storefront's actually going to look, because that right now is an unknown cost to them, what it's going to take to fix the roof.
Does that answer your question, Megan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we won't have a formal motion on accepting the work that is done on this at this point. Once they have finalized all the details, then we can do that. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Trinity United Church, we can defer to next time. Nothing's happening yet. There were some contradictory articles in the Thorold News, so we don't know at this point whether this building is going to be sold or not. We'll just basically keep it on our radar in case that does happen. Any comments, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, one thing I think we should ask the city of is who the ownership is of the Allenberg
Absolutely.
Community Church, the Allenberg United Community Church, because the correspondence that we had from a representative from Trinity, they are looking outside to see if they can join forces with another congregation somewhere. They're just testing the waters, and they inquired about the Allenberg United Church. It might be a potential building for their congregation to use, but right now we don't know who owns the building. I believe that Allenburg Community Center behind is city-owned, but is the church itself in private hands?
Yeah. We don't know. Does the city know at all who owns that building, which, by the way, is also a designated building?
So through the chair, I could possibly look into it. I'm not sure exactly if I'd be able to provide ownership names. I would have to talk with the clerk's department on that because that is confidential information. But I can definitely look into what I can provide.
Heritage
that
inventory
too.
list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is live streamed onto YouTube, so anyone would be able to see this. So I just have to see what is the correct way to answer questions.
Oh, sorry, I
No,
apologize.
I totally understand, Megan. It's
Yeah.
just the reason why we laughed is that that was one of our questions to the heritage experts, that making the names of the owners of designated buildings public on the city's website. So it's exactly that issue, but we understand, and but it would be good to know who owns this building, not publicly, and what will happen to it. Sarah?
I was going to say the United Church of Canada probably could give you that information. If you
Oh, okay.
contacted them. I
Okay.
would think, yeah, the
All right.
United Church stuff.
Okay, good. All right, then we can move on to the next item. Designation priorities. I have a question here to staff about prescribed events. I have a specific property in mind, which is one of the most, if not the most important house in Thorold. And it is potentially in danger from such a prescribed event. And so I would like to know what kind of prescribed events have been what's the word? What do you do with a prescribed? Well, are there any in place that impact some of our heritage properties on the non-designated list that you know of?
Through the chair, is this a question to me?
Yes. Sorry.
So
Yes,
what do you mean by a prescribed event?
well, that's actually how it's worded in the new version of the Heritage Act after Bill 23 was passed. When there's development plans in a specific area, then a non-designated property has to basically you have to give a notice of intent to designate within 90 days. There are exceptions which would apply to this house. But when the heritage experts talked about non-designated properties, it sometimes sounded as if these properties are not as important, not as architecturally or historically important as some of the properties that are already designated. However, that's not necessarily the case. Very often these properties aren't designated because so far the owners haven't been willing. It doesn't really have anything to do with their significance. And the area north of Highway 20 in Allenburg is zoned general industrial. In that particular area, right on Highway 20, sits Thorold's oldest and most architecturally and historically significant house. That house needs to be protected. I'm just saying it now because I know that area is of a zoning type and close to this Highway 20, which might need to be widened at one point, that we would like to start talking about that particular property.
So what do you need from me?
Actually, what I basically wanted to know, are there any plans for the widening of Highway 20 in the works right now?
I can look into that. Highway, what's the intersections? Because
This would
it's quite
be
large.
Highway 20 just east of the canal.
Yeah.
From, what's the highway that comes, yes, Councillor?
58,
Yeah, 58. Mhm.
Highway 58,
Yeah,
and you could say to the canal.
Highway 58 and
like it's the section of Highway 20 between Highway 58 and the canal.
now.
Allenberg Bridge.
Yeah,
So that wouldn't be a municipally owned property or like road. Highway 20 is either provincially owned or regionally owned, but I can look into that. But then the designation of the properties, that would be through the committee.
yes, but it's just, the reason why I mentioned it is we want to know how urgent it is. And we don't want to designate a house just to designate it. This is a house that is of museum quality. And it would be not just a shame or a tragedy, it would be a crime to lose that house.
Mhm.
And that's why I would just like, information as to what is planned in that area so that we can plan accordingly if we want to protect that house. Well, we do want to protect that house. And the thing is that the area is zoned general industrial, but it's a private residence. And there I would just like to know what the implications are. So are there any provisions from the city when that is the case? If
So I can look into about the road widening.
mhm. And we don't want to at all we don't have an issue with the surrounding area being zoned general industrial. That's not at all the case. It's only about this one property. So we just, if we can find out what the plans are for Highway 20 in that area, that would be great. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm surprised it's zoned like that. I assume that it had been protected, but surely the council, at the recommendation of Heritage Thorold, the council could pass a zoning variance that includes the footprint of the property. And have it designated, maybe not, industrial, but, residential or something, just at least to maybe lessen. I don't know whether there is no, there would be only be R1, but of course that's all changed now, but nevertheless, maybe if that could maybe be a way to at least, at least remove that blanket zoning. It's a variance. I mean, that's so it's just
Megan?
interesting.
So I think I know the area you're talking about. So that's designated under the official plan as general industrial as well. So it's not just a minor variance or a zoning bylaw amendment. I believe I've talked to the owners of that property. They had wanted to do something on their property. However, it's in the official plan designated general industrial, in the zoning bylaw designated general industrial. And our official plan indicates that a zoning bylaw amendment or official plan amendment wouldn't be able to be supported without employment land survey or research being done to make sure that the property employment lands weren't taken out of our inventory. But around that, in terms of your committee, would be the potential of designating the house in terms of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. That would be maybe outside the scope of this committee. and that would have to be applied for by an applicant. But the designating of the house would be able to help what your intentions of the committee are.
Sarah?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What about, I'm not sure again whether this can come through the Heritage Thorold, but is maybe requesting, and something I want to bring up about other properties, generally these little clusters of heritage properties is a secondary plan, maybe for, Thorold South, or, I guess that's Allenburg, no, it's or whatever, that community. And that would include the old locks and everything like that. Is that a possibility? And that's to Megan. Thank you.
So through the chair, I think if you wanted to propose something like that, it might be like a motion to the council for them to maybe think about that, see if that's a direction that they're interested in doing, and directing staff that way. That'd be my only. I wouldn't say that. And as you guys might know, like our planning department, we have to do a new official plan to be in line with the regional official plan to downgrade it. We do now have 3 staff here, but there is limited resources in that area, but that might be able to be a part of the new official plan, but that should be coming from council. So you can maybe provide council with thoughts, and then they can see how they want to direct staff that way.
Okay. From what you said before, Megan, did I understand you correctly that if the house were designated, it would certainly help having it taken out of this industrial zoning designation?
So designating the house wouldn't take it out of general industrial designation, but that would be designating it to protecting the house, which is your ultimate interest.
Yeah, and I know the owners had certain ideas of what they wanted to do on the land, and they understand that they are not allowed to do that. They are trying to also think of alternatives that are actually allowed within that zoning. So they're not necessarily interested in a zoning bylaw amendment. They are just interested in protecting that house, which has been in their family over 200 years since it was built. Yeah. So, there's family history there.
So through the chair, as long as they own the property, they do not need to remove the house by them owning it. They are ultimately protecting the house. It'd be as if they were to sell the property, they will ultimately be protecting the house by owning the house. So they don't really need to do too much. If they are interested in designating it, they can work with the Heritage Committee to doing that. The house is a non-conforming use on the property, but it's a legal non-conforming use. There's no issue with the house on the property, and they can continue living in it.
Okay, good. All right. Any other comments?
No.
Okay. Further, the reason why I mentioned this house is when we have 2 years to designate the properties on our non-designated list. Obviously, one of the key issues will be to approach the owners and find the owners that are willing to designate. Other key issues will be which properties do we want to designate most, because they are, the most significant either architecturally or historically. And thirdly, also which of the properties are the most endangered. So with some properties, I'm sure we don't have to worry too much. I don't think they would ever be in danger. Others could be. So those are just the kind of things that we have to keep in mind when we address which properties we want to designate if possible within the next 2 years. Okay, Then we'll move on to the history plaques for designated properties and our yearly goals for that. So as Joe has already said, we have a few of the stainless steel stands left over, not the plaques, because those have to be specially printed for each property. We had the yearly goal of adding 4 each year in the past. We might have to alter that slightly over the next year or two, depending on designation costs and also the website costs and so on. But what shall we set as a yearly goal for adding these plaques to the 25 or so designated properties that do not have them yet? Any comments? Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd say we've been trying for 2 designations a year and 4 plaque stands installed. I think we just go with that. We're just going to have to ask for more money next year because of the fact that the prices have doubled up. I'll get in touch with McGee in the next day or so and see if he's got a firm price on the stainless plaques and the stands themselves. You know, I think we should continue, even though the price is really expensive, I think we should stay with those particular products. The stainless stands basically last forever. When we first started installing these at the beginning of the program, they were just steel and they rotted. So he has an improved version of the stainless plaque now that is more resistant to the fading. So that's going forward in a benefit. The bronze plaques, yeah, it is what it is. Bronze plaques last forever. It would be foolish to look at trying to substitute them. I think we just have to stay with the product that we've got. And when I get some firm prices, then we can set some a price budget amount for next year.
Okay. All right. Okay, so then we put that in our budget, that our goal is, our yearly goal stays for a year. And for this year, we'll just have to see once we have paid for the website, maybe we get a carryover to pay for that, how many we can fit in this year. But then for next year, our goal is definitely 4 again.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do we have to move on that, Sydney or Megan? Or can we just decide that?
Through you, Madam Chair, you should be able to just decide that without a motion.
Okay, great, awesome. Towpath signage and plaquing recognition, we have already touched on that a little bit with the importance of the first and second Welland Canal going right through Thorold from the old fire hall up to Beaver Dams Park. And Joe already mentioned the Thorold Parks, Trails and Recreation Master Plan, which is an awesome plan. And all the recommendations in that would be, of course, absolutely ideal to implement for that area. First of all, to make it more attractive than it currently is to visitors, and to also celebrate that very important history that lies underneath the ground in that area, and which is then also obviously accentuated by the historic buildings close by. Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, for those committee members that aren't aware, the BIA has 5 of the Prince of Wales heritage banners that are to be installed on towpath. So that kind of broadens our downtown core of historical recognition. And when I had spoken at the first tourism meeting, even when I was vice chair of the committee back last term, I put forward a proposal to the committee about expanding the banner program to include people that had historic significance to the development of Thorold. And the goal was to disperse some of the heritage banners a little further out, like give some to Port Robinson, Allenburg. And in the place of the ones that would be taken down downtown, we'd still leave up some of the heritage banners, but we would have an inventory of banners that would show the face of a person, and possibly do a QR code off the pole that the banner would be hung upon. I reached out to Randy Burns, and he provided me a list of about 30 names or so that could be researched further. It kind of fell by the wayside with the tourism committee, but this year I think they may be able to pick up on it again. I forwarded the list to Marcia Coppola, who is the chair of the community events committee, but she's also on the tourism committee. So Tony Vondermas has expressed some interest in working with it, and I think at one time maybe you, Sarah, had some interest in downtown walking tours or something.
I personally, oh, sorry, I'm here, and to Joe, I wasn't involved in any of that, but I know that Pam did some work on that, and also Alan before
Okay.
that. Was,
Okay, yeah,
and you know the people to talk to.
but hopefully,
There are,
you know, with this will be all part of the towpath signage recognition. So, you know, the BIA is starting. They were supposed to put them up last year, but I think there was some problems with that. But Marcia says they do have them. They're going to go up this year. So at least it's, you know, we're getting a foothold in that area, and we just have to build on it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Any other comments with regards to towpath? No? Okay. Heritage Thorold presentation. I have started a presentation to council from the Heritage Committee. I haven't, it will probably not be presented on April 11th because I'm still here in Germany. I'm not 100% sure when I will be able to come back. And I'm not sure whether I'll be back by April 11th. I think Councillor Tim, I think you had also said that probably that council meeting is pretty full already, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to take a washroom break.
Oh, if we defer that to the meeting after, then I'm pretty sure I can be ready to present at that time. And Win, I had asked you to assist me, and once I have a first draft, I'll send it to you, and then you can give me your input. And then, Joe, do you think we should also show this at the next committee meeting in its final draft for our committee members to comment on it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then we do that. All right, and then we'll present at the next council meeting after that. All right. Municipal cultural planning presentation, we'll defer that until the next meeting because Eva isn't there, and she of course would be the one to be preparing that. Okay, then we have a roundtable discussion. Any comments, concerns? Megan.
So through the chair, the clerk's department and the planning department have asked me to just let you know that if you make any PowerPoints or anything of that nature, just to make sure you're not using the City of Thorold's logo.
Oh, I probably won't be. It's probably going to be a speech unless Win can support me with something like, because I would be hopeless with that. If we have anything, then it would be Win who would be organizing that, and we'll make sure we won't use the City of Thorold's logo.
Yeah. So the last meeting, I believe there was a PowerPoint, and Eva might have made it, and there was a City of Thorold logo on it.
Oh, she did,
so
yeah.
Moving forward, so moving forward, anything you guys produce, just make sure maybe you can write a Heritage Committee of the City of Thorold, but not using the actual City of Thorold logo.
Okay, good. All right, good to know. Anything else? Sarah?
Yeah, sorry, sorry, I got to run pretty soon, but thank you very much for inviting me to join you on this
Oh,
meeting.
thanks very much for being there. You brought some really great points.
Well, I hope to be. One thing I was just thinking about, and I don't know, again, you know, I've done a graduate diploma in planning, but I'm not a planner. But is maybe a recommendation to have a secondary plans developed for, okay, downtown Thorold, for even the residential area west of the canal. I think that should probably be covered. And also Port Robinson. Allenburg is another possibility as well, but this is just some suggestions that might, just recognition of their heritage potential, and then that might help guide future planning decisions. If not, you know, change through minor variances or whatever the zoning they're in. But I think probably the residential area is pretty safe and center, you know, the Thorold downtown, but Port Robinson, there's still so much development going on down there. I think really that needs another layer of protection. I've just been on the official plan and I don't see that. The only secondary plan is with regard to rolling meadows. Anyhow, so that was just my only little suggestion there.
Okay, great. Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, something I just wanted to raise when we've talked about in the past. I think, you know, education and, you know, reaching out to the community, you know, our inventory is designated properties is slowly dwindling. And, you know, we recognize that the designation of Block 25 in Beaver Dams Park on Canada Day is going to be a wonderful PR event for us with such a captive audience witnessing what we're doing. What I was thinking that, you know, there are some community events, and this is what was also talked about, that we may be able to have a presence at them. And I'm thinking, I know recently in the paper, there's been some discussion going on the downtown car show that was coming in on Friday nights. It sounds like one group is saying they're going to go back to Seaway Mall in Welland. Serge Carpino says, no, they're going to be back on Front Street. And I was thinking that, you know, you've got this going on for 3 or 4 months, and it would be an idea for us as a committee to get permission from the city to set up, say, a 6-foot folding tablecloth with the Heritage logo on the tablecloth, perhaps handing out walking tour brochures, maybe having some of our research reports available on a table spread out that people could pick them up and look at them. You know, we've got old maps that we could possibly show the people. I mean, you've got a few hundred people that are going to be wandering the streets. And if they happen to walk by us and get some interest in what we're trying to portray, it may draw more people in to Thorold in a tourism way. And it can also possibly lift our profile a bit. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I like that. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and then to Joe. I would propose that maybe rather than having the physical, let's say, printed copies, which is going to cost a fair bit, is maybe just digitize them. I don't know whether you can put the reports on the website, but certainly create a QR code. Like you know, that might be an idea. And then that way people could scan, let's say, a list of QR codes for various properties.
Yeah, sorry, through Madam Chair to Sarah. We don't have any more of the research reports. I know Mayholm has some, but my understanding is they've kind of distributed some to other locations too. The library gave up all the ones that they had, and it would have been great at the time that, because they're digitizing everything right now with the museum. Some of us older members have some of the earlier reports when we were designating properties, and we were having a copy of the reports printed for each member of the Heritage Committee. But I know probably in the last 10 or 15 years, we've only been making copies just for the homeowners themselves, unless you're in possession of a past inventory that we could tap into and digitize, or I know we were getting Nora Reed to do some, whether
Yeah.
she has some that we could reach out to her. Might
Well,
be a bit of legwork tracking them all down.
Yeah, well, I can say certainly that Pam had pretty much everything, but of course her inventory went to Mayholm, and then I understand Mayholm got rid of a lot of stuff, which is
Yeah.
disappointing.
We'd have to go down to
Um,
Mayholm and
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised. I got that from Dennis Cannon in the city of St. Catharines, but I have quite a few. I'm happy to share my PDFs because I digitize pretty much everything I get hold of, and I think Brock's got a fair bit too. So I could check with special collections. I think
okay,
I have a list of all. Well, we can just check through the list, and I
Okay.
could certainly start to compile it. Melanie did a few reports,
Yes.
and then but Nora, I presume, has all hers. But I can certainly assemble that list for you and get it back to you for
okay,
beginning of
thank
the
you.
next meeting. Okay, certainly. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Linda? Any
Um,
comments?
No, and I'm going to have to leave. I have a 1:30 Zoom.
Okay.
So,
Can
okay.
we just, very quickly, I would like to call a meeting for the end of April with what we have to do. It's not possible not to have a meeting until May. So do we have to move on that, Megan, or can I just call a meeting for April? I think it would be the 25th. Sydney?
I'll let Sydney.
Okay,
Through you, Madam Chair, as the chair, you can just call the special meeting.
okay. Then Linda, you can leave any time. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that we had quorum in case I had to put in a motion. But okay.
Thank
And
you.
any other comments? Win? No? Okay.
Nothing from me, Madam Chair.
Sydney?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to confirm, you're calling the special meeting for April 25th at 10 a.m.?
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
great. And Councillor, any comments from you? No? Anybody? Then we have just decided next meeting will be April 25th, 10 a.m. And I guess that concludes this meeting. And it's thereby adjourned at 12:30.